Hey y'all, welcome to the filling station. I am super excited, y'all. So we're gonna do almost like a recap. Just what can we learn today, right? So let me first give my disclaimer, y'all. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yes, the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. With that being said, if you could please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, because we learn and we grow together. So with that being said, y'all, let's get started. Now, we are looking at Tesla. And one of the things that I had, I always say learn from my mistakes. One of the things that I had to learn was get up early to see what's actually going on with that particular stock. If you're trading something, Tesla and the SPY is something that I trade every day. So I try to get up and watch, the activity pre-market, what's going on pre-market. And so often people, they want to jump in the game without actually knowing what's going on, or understanding or getting some type of understanding of how it's trading or what's going on with it. So I want to say that is definitely one of the mistakes that I made, not making time to study the game or study the stock, or figure out what's going on pre-market. So I encourage you, if you're in this trading journey, or want to become a trader, make sure you get some understanding of what's going on before you just the 9:30 bell rings, or before you just jump into the trade, right? So again, we're looking at Tesla, and I've noticed that even with Tesla pre-market, we were struggling. We had closed at a high, I think it was around 374. And for us to trade at the 374, to only come down to make this low of 367 pre-market, I knew that we had some issues with Tesla because we were down. Right. So, watching it, and I was like, okay, we're trading sideways. We see that pre-market. Oh, this is pre-market, right? So it started inclining, more people coming into the market. However, I knew that we could possibly have trouble in all of these places. Well, guess what? We were breaking through those places, which is interesting, right? But pre-market, we sold off so much, it was a decline, and found some support only to bounce back, right? So I had this level of 374.36 marked, and I said, okay, if we break above this level, which we came here pre-market, we had trouble there at 8:30. That was our trouble candle, right? Only to come back, get rejected, and come back to all of this bunched up moving average type stuff. I could not trade this because I don't have a clear signal as to what's going on with Tesla right now. So it's best, to sit on the sidelines and not just jump in the game, right? So here I am. This is our 9:30 candle, which is rather interesting considering we were struggling pre-market. So what could have happened? Did Tesla get some news? What happened to make us go from a 370, which is the low of this candle, to a 380.55, which is the high of this candle? What happened? I didn't see any news, and that's another thing. We have to know, what's causing this move up, or what's causing this decline, because it's going to help us in understanding with, what's going on. Is this something I need to pay attention to? Either way, you need to pay attention to it, right? So back at 9:30, this is Tesla. The low of this candle was 370. We made a pre-market low thus far at 367. How did Tesla go from a 370 to a 380.55? This is the overthinker in me at this point, because I'm like, wait a minute, we were just trading sideways, and at the lower under, we declined. So now we're going back to the upside, because we created a gap to the downside, because we opened lower. Well, there was a gap to the downside, if I'm not mistaken, that needed to be, to the upside, because we had gapped down. So it looks as if Tesla gave us this false move at the 9:30 opening. We broke through all of those layers. Remember, I had this level of 374.36. Guess what? We broke through that. And when I see it, somebody else see it. There's always somebody on the opposite end of your trade, and we got to be mindful of that, right? So again, looking at Tesla 9:30, we broke through a level of resistance at that 374.36. Yes, okay, now we're really moving, right, at this point, from 374 all the way to this 380.55. Now, I have this 379.19 marked for a reason, and this 378.91. The 378.91 was a area of support or resistance before, so I keep it on my chart, gray it out, so I can remember that, right? Now, The 379.19 is on the daily chart for Tesla. Tesla had been trading, and I'm going to see if I can go to this area without it getting too overwhelming. Okay, Tesla had been trading in a area. Maybe I can see it from the 4-hour chart. Let's go there. So Tesla had been trading in a zone, in my opinion. And when I say a zone, that yellow line here, we can see it on this 4-hour chart a little bit. We've been trading from this place to this place, and it's on the daily chart. That was our area. So resistance was around 428.60. Support was around the 379.19 area. We've been at this place before. Well, guess what? We have dropped out of that place. So now I'm going to go back to my 30-minute chart. So that's why we have the 379. That's 1 hour. That's why we have the 379 area marked, because that was an area of support or resistance, or that it was in our gathering spot from the daily chart, and I needed to remember that. So when Tesla broke through that level, I knew that I needed to pay very close attention to that, because as you can see, it's a place on my chart to where I need to be mindful of that. Well, guess what? It is exactly where not far from the 200 EMA on this 30-minute chart, right? So I can't go back to the 5-minute because of, the market is closed and it's not going to give us the, the view that I need to see. So looking at it on this 30-minute chart, that 379.19 area is the level that we went through, and we went through the 200 EMA. Now, the 200 EMA was at 377.13. Well, let's say around the 380.29. It has declined since then. So it was around a 380.29. We went through 380.29 and made a high of 380.55. That is interesting. And in fact, I really need to mark that. Why? Because the overthinker in me is like, okay, well, what stopped Tesla at this place? Keep in mind, there's always somebody on the opposite end of your trade. Let's be mindful. Let's make that clear, right? So with that being said, they could have very well, just like I had that 200 EMA mark, I had this 379.19. Somebody else could have very well knew those numbers. So it could have very well been easy to break through that, to make you seem to think, and probably take out some stop losses along the way, break through that area to give you an idea or indicate, make you think that it's possibly going to continue moving, only to get rejected at this 380 level, right? So from the 380, which is 380.55, which is the high of this candle here, we came all the way back down to 376.50. So from 380.55 to 376.50, Tesla has, okay, we've come down off of that. Well, guess what? My next candle tells me that that looks like a double top for me on this 30-minute chart, which I'm almost certain that the 5-minute chart would have cleared up and gave me some type of confirmation as such. Right now, I need to watch this, because being that, we have made a high here only to get rejected and come back down, I'm almost certain I see signals on my 5-minute chart. Well, this 30-minute chart here, this is telling me we're declining. 5 and 50 crossed here. I like to see those crossing, 5 and 50 crossing here, back to the downside. That was a signal for me, right? So double top here and 5 and 50 crossing here, there's a signal, there's confirmation. So entering Tesla off of this 376, or I would even say around 374. Say for instance we entered the trade at 374, from 374 all the way down to this low here of 366.30 with Tesla. That is a really nice move if you get in at the right time and out of the right time. Let me tell you where I have made several mistakes at, right? So it was a nice trade, let's say that, because I bought off the high, came down, I sold here. So if by chance I would have, say for instance, stayed in the trade, Tesla found support here. Just because we came off of a high and made a decline does not mean we can't find support and move all the way back to the upside. Now, I had to sell because I was not able to watch my trade. And so often we get distracted while trading and doing so many other things while trading, or thinking that it's going to, very well continue, either going in that direction, which that's not always the case. Once you have a signal and once it goes against your why, I always say, y'all, get out, live to trade another day. So this was a nice profit for me. I'm done. I don't need to trade. I don't need to keep trading. Right now, Tesla gave me a signal here that we reverse and move back up. Well, guess what? I knew we had trouble at all of these places here. Does that mean we cannot break those places? No, because we did break that here, right? So because we did not break those areas tells me that Tesla is struggling. We have an issue right here. So if I would have bought back into this trade here at this level, back to the downside, I have a rejection. And again, looking at it on this 30-minute chart, I'm almost certain my 5-minute gave me some type of confirmation. I like to have 2 or 3 confirmations as to why I am entering my trade, right? So Tesla got rejected off of this moving average, the 50 EMA, 20 EMA, 5 EMA. Now we're under the 5 EMA. So I am in Tesla back to the downside, right? So entering this trade again around 367.91, and coming all the way down, Tesla made a low of 360.34. So why didn't I stay in? Some people will say, well, why didn't you just stay in? Because I had to walk away from my computer. I had to walk away from my charts. I could not take the chance of making a decent profit. How many times have you been in a trade and you were up in profit, and because you did not get out in time, you end up giving all of that profit back and still losing on a trade? Learn from my mistakes. Let's say that, right? So I took, I got out of the trade. It was a decent trade only because I could not watch it, and I was able to get back into the trade, back to the downside, which was a very profitable trade. In turn, it turned out to be another profitable trade. But again, I had to make a wise decision to get out because I couldn't watch the trade. And one of the things that we have to be mindful of, trading is more of a psychological thing, if nothing else, and being greedy and not embracing whatever the market is giving today. If X amount of dollars is all that you make today, take that and close your computer, walk away, and start back another day. So often we make a really nice profit, and then we go back in and give majority of that back because we got that confidence. I had a nice trade and I'm going to keep going and going. And before long, you've given it all back. So you've got to be very, very careful with that. So what I learned from Tesla on Friday was I was proud of myself for able to, to get out. Why? Because I could not watch the trade. However, when I was able to come back, I had another entry. There's always an entry at some point. It's just sometimes you have to wait on that entry. And one of the things with trading, you have to have patience, because if you don't, it will let you know you got in at the wrong time, you got out at the wrong time. So you have to be very, very careful with that. So making a decision to get out, lock in your profit, make sure that you're not overstaying your welcome. When you see signs of reversal, when you see signs that things are changing, your patterns changing, you shifting, things like that, get out, lock in your profit, find another entry, get back in, and getting back into this trade, riding it back to the downside was really, really good. So could I have stayed in? Absolutely, but I didn't because I could not watch my chart. So yeah, y'all, I hope that learn from my mistakes, learn from the things that I had to learn the hard way. Make sure that you're able to identify your trouble places, your gathering spots. This is a gathering spot here. Why? Because Tesla traded. If we go back and look and see, y'all, I'm trying to get, yeah. Okay, so if we go back, Tesla traded in this area. This was a gathering spot, of which I did not have marked on my chart, but I'm going to mark that now. And I'm going to remember this area here of 368.52. Why? Because we stayed in this area for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours. We traded in this area for 3 hours. Well, guess what? We came back to this area right here again. That was our area. Now, we did come down and make another low, a low here. So we can say that Tesla traded. I need to remove that. We can say that Tesla came down and we traded from this zone down to this zone, which really wasn't far away. It's still a decline. We're making lower lows only to find support, bounce, get rejected, come back down to this low of 366.84. I need to remember this zone here. Why? Because we were there before. And once we broke out of that zone, that is a sure sign that we are declining. We broke out of the zone here. So I need to be careful. I can trade this to the downside as well, as long as I have other confirmation. So again, y'all, make sure that you understand what's going on pre-market before entering your trades. That is very, very helpful. Always be mindful of where your trouble places are. Where is Tesla or whatever ticker you're using, whatever you're trading, or whatever you're watching, where are my trouble places? That's always helpful. Pay very close attention to that. And don't overstay your welcome. If you have to walk away from your computer, it's best to get out. I mean, especially with Tesla moving the way that it does, it's best to lock in your profit, because again, we could have very well found support here and continue moving back to the upside as it did here. I think this was more of a psychological thing to throw us off, to think us that, make us think that it was going to keep going up. But again, pre-market we were struggling, and I noticed that. So you've got to be very, very careful with that. Trading is not difficult. It's learning you and the discipline that you have. And once you get it, you got it. But I'm telling you, greed is a factor. Patience is definitely a factor. Those are things that I needed to learn the hard way about myself. Let me say that. So y'all, again, I hope these videos are very, very helpful. I hope that, I always say we learn and we grow together, because I always like to share some of the experiences that I had. And again, I did have an awesome mentor, but it took some going through some trial and error before I actually got it. And I'm grateful at that. And I always say, once you got it, you got it. And some days are good days and some days are bad days, but you got to have that discipline to know when it's time to shut the computer and walk away. So again, y'all, I hope these videos are very, very helpful. If you could please like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, because again, we learn and we grow together. So until next time, y'all, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others.